Intimacy with a narcissist often feels less like a shared connection and more like a carefully orchestrated performance. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on the hidden sexual dynamics they secretly crave, the psychological acts they deploy behind closed doors, and the crucial boundary you must try to finally reclaim your own deeply held power. You might have noticed a strange disconnect when the lights go out. A haunting feeling that even in the most vulnerable moments, you are somehow entirely alone in the room. They are physically present, sure. But their mind is focused on a completely different agenda, one that has absolutely nothing to do with genuine warmth or mutual connection. To understand a narcissist in the bedroom, you must first realize that physical intimacy is never just about pleasure. For them, it is a battlefield, a stage, and a mirror all at once. They are not looking for vulnerability, they are looking for supply. They want to extract validation, absolute control, and the power to dictate your self-worth. The first act they secretly desire is absolute, unquestioning worship. They want you to reflect back an image of them as a flawless, irresistible god or goddess. It is not about how you feel in that moment, it is entirely about how your reaction makes them feel about themselves. If you do not perform your awe perfectly, they will quietly resent you. Then comes the second act, the transactional exchange. With a narcissist, physical closeness is treated like currency. They will use it to reward you when you have been compliant and quietly withhold it to punish you when you dare to step out of line. You are left feeling completely confused, wondering why love suddenly feels like a brutal negotiation. The third dynamic is the extreme love-bombing performance. Early on, they might overwhelm you with a physical intensity that feels like soulmate-level passion. But it is an illusion. They are simply mirroring your deepest desires to hook you in fast. Once you are emotionally dependent on that high, they abruptly change the rules of the entire game. You start to feel like an object rather than a human being. This is the fourth act, complete objectification. They desire to use your body merely as a prop in their own internal fantasy. Your actual needs, your emotional safety, and your comfort are entirely irrelevant to them, brushed aside the moment those needs conflict with their immediate desires. Have you ever felt them purposely push your limits? The fifth act is the quiet erosion of your boundaries. They will subtly pressure you into things you aren't comfortable with, just to see if you will cave. It is a calculated test of compliance. When you finally yield, they do not feel closer to you. They just feel a sinister rush of ultimate power. It leaves a deep, invisible scar on your psyche. You lie awake next to them, feeling a profound emptiness that defies logical explanation. You gave them everything, opened your soul, and yet you feel entirely drained. That is the tragedy of loving someone who views intimacy not as a bridge between two hearts, but as an endless resource to be mined. You might be watching this because you feel broken, wondering if you are simply not enough to keep their attention. But you need to hear this right now. Their emotional void has nothing to do with your worth. The game was entirely rigged from the moment it began. You are finally starting to see the truth, and that truth is your ultimate weapon. Let's dive deeper into their fractured mind. The sixth act they desire is the sudden, unexplained withdrawal. Just when you feel the most deeply connected to them, they will turn ice cold. They crave the desperate, frantic energy you emit when you try to win their affection back. Your visible anxiety is the purest form of narcissistic supply for them. They feed on that instability. By keeping you completely off balance, they ensure you never have the emotional footing to actually question their behavior. If you are constantly starving for a crumb of their physical affection, you will overlook the massive, glaring red flags standing right in front of you. It is a brilliant, terrifying strategy. The seventh act involves triangulation within intimacy. Have they ever casually mentioned an ex, or made a subtle comparison right in the middle of a vulnerable moment? They secretly desire to make you feel like you are actively competing for their touch. It creates a toxic triangle where you are desperately fighting to prove you are the best they've had. It is a deeply sadistic form of psychological warfare. You are left hyperanalyzing your every move, terrified that you are falling short of an invisible, impossible standard. You start performing rather than experiencing, entirely disconnected from your own body, completely focused on making sure they do not discard you for someone seemingly better. Then we see the eighth act, the demand for emotional absolute zero. They want the physical act without any of the messy, complicated emotional bonding that normally follows. If you try to hold them, talk softly, or seek reassurance afterward, they will recoil, label you as needy, and make you feel pathetic for simply acting like a normal human being. Why do they do this? Because true emotional intimacy absolutely terrifies them. It requires vulnerability, empathy, and the dropping of the false self, things a narcissist is completely incapable of doing. To protect their fragile ego, they must violently push you away the second the physical act concludes, leaving you shivering in the emotional cold. The ninth act is the complete invalidation of your physical reality. If you express pain, discomfort, or simple dissatisfaction, they will instantly flip the script. They will gaslight you into believing that your body's natural reactions are wrong, that you are the one with the problem. They need to be perfect. Therefore, any flaw must belong to you. This constant rejection warps your own self-image. You start to view your body through their cold, hypercritical eyes. You forget what it feels like to be touched with genuine, unconditional warmth. Your nervous system is constantly locked in fight or flight mode, anticipating the next criticism, the next sudden rejection, the next brutal discard. And yet, the trauma bond keeps pulling you back into the cycle. Your brain becomes addicted to the sporadic moments when they finally throw you a scrap of affection. It is exactly like a slot machine. The unpredictability of the reward makes the addiction infinitely stronger. You are not weak for staying. Your biochemistry has been hijacked by them. But understanding this clinical breakdown is the very first step toward dismantling their grip on your soul. When you can look at their behavior and clearly identify the manipulative mechanics behind it, the terrifying magic suddenly starts to fade. They are not mysterious, irresistible lovers. They are broken individuals reading from a tragic script. Eventually, a massive shift occurs deep inside of you. You stop seeing their behavior through the lens of romantic hope and start seeing it for the cold manipulation it truly is. The spell begins to aggressively crack. You look at them lying next to you and realize that the person you fell so deeply in love with is nothing but a carefully crafted ghost. This brings us to the 10th act, the one act you must finally try yourself, the act of absolute indifference. The narcissist secretly dreads this more than anything else in the entire world. When you stop reacting, stop performing, and stop begging for their toxic crumbs, their entire psychological framework begins to completely fall apart. Imagine the scene. They attempt their usual manipulative withdrawal, expecting you to desperately chase them, but you do absolutely nothing. You just look at them with calm, empty eyes. And then it stops. Just like that, the silence in the room becomes incredibly deafening. You have completely starved them of the chaotic energy they need to survive. Their reaction will be incredibly explosive or entirely pathetic. Without your emotional reaction to anchor them, they start to desperately spiral. They will attempt to love bomb you again, or suddenly manufacture a massive crisis just to get a rise out of you. They are scrambling to find the control panel they use to operate with absolute impunity. But you are no longer playing the same rigged game. You feel the heavy, oppressive fog starting to finally lift from your tired brain. The realization hits you like a freight train. You never actually needed them to validate your worth. They needed you to blindly validate their false reality because, without you, they are fundamentally entirely empty. It is a deeply terrifying, yet profoundly liberating moment. You are standing at the edge of the emotional abyss, staring right down into it, and realizing it cannot actually pull you in unless you willingly jump. They try to reel you back with empty promises of changed behavior and renewed intimacy, but the words suddenly sound incredibly hollow to you. You finally recognize that giving them your body was essentially giving them your precious soul, piece by tiny piece. Every time you compromised your boundaries to keep the peace, you lost a fraction of your own identity. But right now, in this powerful moment of clarity, you are deciding to take every single piece of yourself firmly back. The panic in their eyes is actually quite revealing. The all-powerful, confident mask slips, revealing a deeply insecure, frightened child who is absolutely terrified of being truly seen. You realize you have been living in terror of a wizard operating behind a very flimsy curtain. You finally pull the heavy curtain back, and the grand illusion shatters. This is the exact turning point where survivors are truly born. It is incredibly painful to accept that the intense passion you felt was actually just the friction of severe emotional abuse. But inside that sharp, bitter pain is the absolute truth. And that undeniable truth is the only thing that can ever successfully set you completely free from them. You are no longer their reliable supply. You are no longer a prop in their sad, repetitive, never-ending psychological play. You are stepping completely off their dark stage and walking directly back into the light of your own authentic reality. The performance is officially over. The heavy velvet curtain has finally, permanently fallen. As you step away, the massive emotional fallout inevitably begins. The consequences of long-term narcissistic abuse do not just magically vanish overnight. Your body keeps the score, holding on to the deep anxiety, the physical tension, and the shattered trust. You might flinch at sudden movements or feel entirely numb when someone shows genuine kindness. The narcissist will absolutely attempt a vicious smear campaign. When they can no longer control you, they will desperately try to control how other people see you. They will play the victim, painting you as the cold, unstable one. It is deeply infuriating, but you must remember, this is just another pathetic performance to protect their fragile ego. Let them talk. Let them spin their ridiculous webs of lies. The people who genuinely matter will see right through the facade, and the ones who don't were never truly your friends to begin with. Your absolute silence in the face of their chaotic noise is the most powerful, dignified response you could ever possibly give to their desperate provocations. You will grieve deeply. Not for the actual person, because that person never truly existed, but for the beautiful, brilliant illusion you believed in so strongly. You will mourn the future you thought you were building, and the pure, innocent love you freely gave to someone who used it entirely as a weapon against your own beautiful, trusting heart. There will be dark, heavy nights where the loneliness feels entirely suffocating. Your trauma-bonded brain will play cruel tricks on you, desperately reminding you of the good times, the intense highs, and the fleeting moments of physical connection. It will beg you to reach out, just one more time, to relieve the agonizing pain of the sudden withdrawal. You must stay strong in those brutal moments. Reaching out to a narcissist for closure is like drinking poison because you are thirsty. They will never, ever give you the healing validation you are seeking. They will only use your vulnerability to drag you right back into the exact same soul-crushing cycle you just fought so incredibly hard to escape. Slowly, the intense cravings will begin to completely subside. The physical symptoms of the trauma bond, the racing heart, the constant knot in your stomach, will start to release their heavy grip. You will begin to sleep through the night again. You will wake up and realize, for the very first time in months, that your mind is finally your own again. You will begin to reconnect with your own body on your own terms. You will remember what it feels like to simply exist without constantly policing yourself for someone else's fragile comfort. The absolute relief of not having to constantly perform, anticipate, or perfectly mirror another human being is a sensation that is incredibly, deeply profound. You start to see the narcissist not as a powerful, omnipotent monster, but as a deeply tragic, entirely stunted individual. They are doomed to wander through life, constantly repeating the exact same destructive cycles, incapable of ever experiencing the profound, authentic connection that you are naturally capable of feeling every single day. They have essentially imprisoned themselves in a solitary confinement of their own making. But you have found the key, unlocked the heavy iron door, and bravely walked right out. The world outside is vast, beautiful, and absolutely waiting for you. You have survived the psychological war, and now, you finally get to rebuild your own beautiful piece. Healing from this specific type of intimate betrayal is not a perfect, straight line. It is a messy, beautiful, completely transformative process. You have to be incredibly gentle with yourself. You survived psychological warfare waged in the place where you were supposed to be the absolute safest. Give yourself profound credit for just still breathing. As you heal, you will completely redefine what intimacy actually means to you. It will no longer be about intense, chaotic sparks or desperate, frantic passion. True intimacy will look like absolute peace. It will look like emotional safety, consistent respect, and the quiet, beautiful comfort of simply being known and fully accepted without conditions. You will learn to explicitly trust your own gut instinct again. The intuition that the narcissist tried so desperately to silence will become your loudest, most trusted guide. If a situation or a person feels slightly off, you will no longer gaslight yourself into staying. You will protect your sacred energy with the fierceness of an absolute warrior. Never, ever blame yourself for having a beautiful, trusting heart. The narcissist targeted you exactly because you had everything they lacked: deep empathy, genuine warmth, and a spectacular capacity to love. They tried to drain those beautiful qualities from you, but they completely failed. Your core essence remains entirely untouched and completely pure. You are allowed to be deeply angry about what was stolen from you. Use that righteous anger as the fuel to build an impenetrable fortress around your boundaries. Do not let anyone ever make you feel bad for having absolutely zero tolerance for manipulative behavior. Your peace is entirely non-negotiable from this profound moment entirely forward. You are watching this right now because you are already doing the incredibly hard work. You are seeking out the undeniable truth, breaking the heavy chains of the trauma bond, and bravely staring down the absolute darkest parts of your own painful history. That takes a level of profound courage that the narcissist will never, ever possess in their life. The 10th act, that ultimate act of absolute indifference, is your brand new baseline. You owe them absolutely nothing. No explanations, no second chances, and certainly no more access to your beautiful mind or your sacred body. You are taking your precious power completely back, and you are never, ever apologizing for choosing your own brilliant life. Someday soon, you will look back on this agonizing chapter not with profound pain, but with quiet, absolute victory. You will see it as the incredibly difficult catalyst that forced you to discover exactly how unbreakable you truly are. You did not just merely survive their dark, toxic fire, you let it forge you into absolute, unbreakable steel. Keep moving forward, one steady, purposeful step at a time. Surround yourself with people who actually celebrate your brilliant light instead of constantly trying to quietly extinguish it. The world is so incredibly hungry for the authentic, beautiful version of you that is finally stepping completely out from underneath their heavy, suffocating shadow. You were never broken by them. You were simply heavily bent under the unbearable weight of an intricate lie. Now, you finally stand perfectly tall in the absolute truth, knowing the greatest power you possess is simply refusing to play their dark game ever again. Let them keep their empty stage. You have an entire, beautiful universe to go explore.